So your business is growing and you're at the point where you need to hire somebody. Awesome, congratulations. But then you put out a call for applications and you get a million because everybody look work, right? So how do you choose the best candidate? What are the best hiring practices? And once you've hired that person, what are your legal obligations to your new employee or employees? I'm Kalilah Reynolds, and it's time for another episode of MoneyMovesJa, brought to you in partnership with EXIM Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. Our guest today is Colinnette Wilson. She's a director at the Human Resources Management Association of Jamaica. Hi, Colinnette. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I have so many questions for you.
Go right ahead. I'm here to answer them as best as I can.
Awesome. All right. So you're at the point in your business where you need to hire somebody, and you are putting out a call for applications, and you get this flood of applications because lots of people want jobs. How do you choose the right candidate? Let's start there.
So there are a number of things that you can do. The first thing you want to do is to ensure that when you're putting out the requirements for the job or the advert, you want to line it up as closely as possible to what it is that you want. So let us say, for example, you want somebody who they require a driver's license. You want to put it in there, right? If you want the person to be able to do a specific task, you put it there so it can be as specific as possible. And so when the time comes for you to sort, you have the opportunity to look at the applications, and there are some tools that can help you out there. But you may say, does this person have a driver's license, for argument's sake? And if they do, then they're in the pool. If they don't, they're out of the pool. And you can have perhaps 2 or 3 top questions that you can say, do they have 6 years of experience? It could be. Do they have a degree in this area? And that helps you to narrow down your pool. And so it becomes a little bit more easier for you to be able to select. One of the things we know is that because persons want jobs, people apply for jobs that they're not qualified for. And so you usually have a large pool of persons to go through. So once you start sorting based on those criteria, you may have some things that you know the person must have this. There are other things which are nice to have. So you start with what they must have, and then you narrow it down from there. And when you're sending out the job advert, you want it to be perhaps catchy, exciting. No, you want to be able to have persons on the other side who are reading it to get a feel as to what type of person you're looking for, what your company is like, and that should also help as well.
You know, I once asked the applicants to send me a writing sample along with their CV. You know, somebody took a picture of their handwriting and sent it.
So it goes back again to, how the person defines.
They didn't understand the assignment.
That's right. And so sometimes we want to ensure that what we're putting out there is clear to the average person. And sometimes it may mean having somebody else read it before you send it out, because you know what you want, and the possibility exists that you put it there knowing what you want and you think it's really so clear. But sometimes just have another person read and tell me, what do you understand from this before you publish that ad. Yes.
All right. So where do people find people to work for them in this day and age?
So there are a number of places. You have persons who go on search engine. You have LinkedIn, which is pretty popular these days. Good old referrals. The referrals always work. So what I know some persons do, some persons ask around, but there's some persons who also just always have persons who are almost available. So they go out and they network. And they may not be seeking a person, but they make it a part of their duty. Just understand what is out there. So we talk about the strength or the bench, always having that bench full. So at, perhaps short notice, they can pull somebody. So referrals are a very, very big thing. The other thing is persons would oftentimes send out adverts, and there's job sites like Caribbean Jobs. There is the good old newspaper. And of course, there are the online things like LinkedIn and other search engines out there.
What are some things to consider when deciding on salary and compensation?
So There are a number of things. I think one of the key things is to look at the industry. What is happening in your industry? What is the industry paying? And so it depends also on where the organization is in its maturity and development stage. So when you have an organization which is starting up pretty new, you may find that the roles are not as clearly defined. You may want to have your jack of all trades kind of person. And as the organization becomes more mature, then you have more specific rules and you have somebody, and it's very tailored almost in a sense. So it depends. You can look at the industry. You can look at the industry here. You can look at overseas, depending on the position you're applying for. With some positions, it tends to be very wide. You know, if you want a secretary, you can find a secretary in almost any industry and all over the place. If you want something, perhaps, let us say you want a specialist photographer or somebody who is tailored, it may take a little bit more effort. So one good place to go is to look at what happens in your industry as a guide. And you can call around. There are some opportunities to find information on like salaries and rates online. And then there's a good old call. You call your friends up and you say, you know, I'm looking for this position, you know, tell me what it pays, you know, and that kind of thing. And that is a good idea to look at not just your salary, but also the benefits that you're able to offer persons coming in.
I feel like salaries are just so secretive for some reason. Many times you have the ads go out and there's no indication of what the salary is, so you don't even know if you want to apply for the job or not.
And that is
Should
something.
You put the salary in the ad?
I believe that you should. I believe you should, because it aligns the expectations on both sides. Somebody may apply for a job. You may choose what you think is your ideal candidate. You may have done 1 interview, 2 interviews, sometimes 3 interviews. And when you get to the stage where you're about to make that offer, then you find that you are so misaligned, you know, with the person may be really good, but they just can't come for what you're offering them, and then it would have been a waste of time for you and for the applicant. So I think it's good to put the salary out there. Some organizations have a scale.
That's a good filter too.
It is a good filter as well. And some organizations do have a scale, so they may say it pays, you know, within this range between $1 million and 1.5 million, something like that. So persons have an idea. Does this make sense? Does it not make sense? And so it helps on both sides with the alignment and getting that person for the role.
What's the difference between hiring somebody as an employee versus on a contract?
Okay, so there are differences in terms of how the contract is worded first, and there are differences with the responsibilities and expectations on either side. So you have employment contracts where the person it's a contract, what we say, a contract of employment, and that person is employed to you. You are the boss. You tell the person, hey, I want you to come to work Monday to Friday, and I want you to do this, and you're going to report to this person, and I will provide you with these tools and equipment to do your job. And that works. And then you have the other contract now, or contract for service, where you'll say, okay, I'm looking for a secretary. I want you to be available to give me 20 hours per week or 30 hours. And perhaps you come with your own tools and your own equipment. So the laptop you provide, I just want you to be here. I want you to cover X amount of meetings. And so that person who is on that contract for service is able to perhaps work for several employers. Your liabilities will be different. You're not bound to provide some of the usual benefits that you would provide for a permanent employee or somebody who is under your sole direction and control. So those are some of the main differences. And from a legal standpoint as well, there are differences in terms of what your obligations would be and the contractor or the employee's obligations.
All right, so let's talk about those legal obligations to your employee. Once you have taken that step and you have now hired, and you might think all you have to do is just pay this person every month and you're good. Are there other legal obligations?
There are obligations. One of the main obligations that employers have to their employees is to provide a safe place of work. And I'll give you an example. Now it's in the COVID era. and employers have the responsibility to make sure that they abide by all of the protocols. They have to ensure that the place is kept safe, so they provide sanitizers. I mean, they have different activities. You may find employers, they have to monitor their employees to the extent that when you come into the organization, you do temperature checks, and they keep a log. So you have to ensure that that place is as safe as possible as it can be for the employee. For the employee.
If you're doing work from home?
Yes, it does apply, because if you're doing work from home and you are working for your employer, then the employer has responsibilities. So even though you're at home and you are using perhaps your chair, if you have an accident at home while you're in the employment of that employer, the employer, strictly speaking, is liable. They are liable. Yes, they are. They are. So you continue to be under their direction, and you're providing work. Additionally,
they spill water on their floor at home while they're working for you. You as the employer.
Absolutely. Right. So some organizations have taken different approaches to ensure that they remain within the ambit of the law. Some employers have gone out and they have perhaps not necessarily secured, but they have said to employees, you may go to this particular store, you can purchase this equipment, and they kind of give a look at the equipment to say this is worthy. They may say, before you take this thing home, we want to look at it. They may say you can take home this chair. So they're saying that, we are ensuring that you are safe while you carry out our work. So yes, the employer is still liable. Like they would be in the office sense. Yes, they are.
All right, so safe place of work. What else is the employer?
So the employer, right, so the employer has to, and they have to ensure that they are paying at least the minimum wage according to the laws of the land. The employer is responsible, based on the employment contract, to pay over all statutory deductions on behalf of that employee. So they will take, and usually that's another thing, when you are working on a contract, most time, and you can move around, you, strictly speaking, are usually responsible for your own taxes. When you are employed by an organization, that organization has that responsibility. They would ensure that they take the taxes from your pay and they pay it over to the relevant authorities, and that becomes their responsibility. In addition to what they take from you, they also have to pay amounts with your being employed to them. So you would look at things like, let us say the NHD. There is an employee portion and there is an employer portion. So they take the employee portion from your salary, and then the employer, they have to provide a portion as well, a percentage based on law, to the government on your behalf, strictly speaking. So that's another responsibility that the employer has.
Are you legally required to provide pay slips once you have permanent employees?
Yes, you are. You are. You must provide that for the employer. So you have to let them know what is it that they're earning, their rate of pay. You have to indicate to them what is taken out of their pay and why it is taken out. So you have to show everything that is they're earning on one side usually, and everything coming out on the other hand. So yes, they must be provided.
To have a contract when you start working.
Absolutely, that is a requirement under the law as well. Yes, and your employer should not only give you a contract, but they need to understand things like your proper name. They would usually want a proof of age. Usually they want to understand who to contact in the case of an emergency. They want your contact number. So there's information that the employer must always have on the employee at all times.
Is health insurance legally required to be provided?
No, it's not legally required, but it's a good practice. It's one of those tools that you can use when you're to say that I'm an attractive employer. So it is not a legal requirement, but it is a huge requirement. And it's something from my experience that especially persons who are entering the work world for the first time, they usually look forward to getting their health insurance benefits.
And how are pensions normally treated now? I feel like companies don't offer that benefit anymore.
Some companies still do. Again, it is not mandatory by law that the employer provides for a pension. So what some organizations, it depends on your size. Again, you have different type of pension arrangements. But some organizations will get into arrangements on behalf of their employees, which does not strictly speak them, force them into a superannuation plan type of an arrangement, and they may have simpler arrangements where they can pay amounts on behalf of their employees to select companies, and there are a number of them around the place now that offers what we call approved retirement schemes for their employees.
Right, and we've done some interviews on that. You can check the link in the description below to see about how you can provide a pension benefit for your employees. A wealth of information. Thank you so much. Next time you'll come back and tell us the flip side of this now, how to fire somebody if it comes to that.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
To find employees who are a good fit for your company, state specifically who and what you're looking for and put a salary range in the description. Ask around for referrals or check sites like LinkedIn. Consider the differences between hiring permanent employees and workers under contract. Contract workers are typically responsible for their own taxes. Your legal obligations to your permanent employees include providing a safe place of work, paying at least the minimum wage, paying statutory deductions, and providing pay slips. When hiring, you're legally mandated to provide the employee with a contract.
That's it for this episode of Money Moves JA, brought to you in partnership with EXIM Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. Visit their website at eximbankja.com and visit my website, KalilahReynolds.com, for a summary of the key points in this episode.
Let's get this money.